had about 9 or 10 exchange students over about a 3 or 4 year, 5 year period. And in that time, apart from a whole lot of European students, we've had 2 Japanese and 2 Chinese. So yeah, one of them was very, very academic, and his parents used to send him homework from China as well as the homework he had to do at school, and he was a bit of a rebel. So, so we're forever having to have his mum ring him up and just explain to him that he needs to keep his Chinese schoolwork up to date as well as whatever he's doing in Australia. So he was doing a lot of homework.
Mm. Yeah, I know a few Chinese, Japanese, and even Koreans who've gone to Australia. Usually I think it's kind of like a safe place because you kind of get that Western world type of experience. You get to speak English, but you're still very close to home. Whereas going off to the US or Canada, it's a little bit scarier because you're moving off kind of to the other side of the globe.
Yeah. I mean, that is true. And Australia is considered in the Asiatic area. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yeah, my AirPods just ran out, so I'm kind of switching them out, hoping that I have one charging here and the other one charging here. Yep. But I can hear you okay with this.
Yeah.
Were you going to talk about Regina?
Yeah. So you're saying you're from Regina. So when Chelsea was about 1, we travelled across Canada, and I had a friend of mine in Regina. So we, on our way through, went from Vancouver. We picked up a camper van, and then we travelled through to Toronto over about a 4-week period. So we stopped into Regina to see this friend of mine, probably stayed there for about a week, and then just travelled around that immediate area. But he had a sister up in Saskatchewan, so we went up there as well. So in that, we spent a lot of time in that whole area. So it was really enjoyable.
Really cool that you saw my hometown. It's a bit small and it's pretty flat, but I really like it because I feel like it's a very close-knit community.
Yeah, it's very rural. And then obviously Saskatchewan to the north is obviously is the main sort of centre. So, yeah, we got to sit into a couple of the local pubs and, tried a few restaurants there. But it was good. We, and spent a bit of time around. I think when we left there, and I can't quite remember if Indian Head was before or after, but dropped into a couple of the other townships around that area there.
I did my internship at Indian Head High School. So for about 5 months, I was in Indian Head teaching. So I know that area very well too.
Yeah. So all those, and then of course stopped in at the Mounted Police Museum and all that sort of stuff. So there was a lot to see around that whole area. Easy to fill a week. Yeah.
It's small, but I really like it. I also like how Wascana Lake goes through the city. And because the city is so small, no matter where you are, you can kind of easily get to Wascana Lake. But it's definitely not got the appeal of Toronto or Vancouver. So we don't get too many foreigners or even just travelers. But
And the other one, the place we hired the camper from, they said don't take the freeways, take the highways. So we when we left Vancouver, we took Highway 3, I think, from memory, which was sort of like what the road the locals take. So they're not, so you get to see a lot of the small townships on the way through when you're going up to the Rocky Mountains. So we had a great time. And, of course, Chelsea was only 1, so it was the first time she saw snow and all that sort of stuff. So
it doesn't.
She freaked out. She hadn't seen snow before.
It doesn't snow in Australia?
Yeah, but like only in the higher mountain areas to the south of us. So yeah, and of course she was only 1, so you're not sort of haven't really got to experience much of life yet.
Definitely. I feel like my introduction's taking up most of the time. Ethan, do you want
Yeah.
to
Well,
introduction too? Sorry.
no worries. I think Chelsea told a lot about me, I assume. Um,
A little bit,
a
a little
little bit.
bit. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. My name is Ethan. Currently, I'm working here in Hanoi. I have quite a history with the city. I wasn't from here. I was born in the south. It was very far away from here. Um, so many things have happened during the years that I was in high school, and I somehow ended up in Hanoi, did a bit of university, and then got my chance to fly to Canada for the summer and also almost a semester. Yeah. So I met Jacques during my summer program. Was the best week of my life. We never figured out. I never expect that our friendship would last long after that program end. But here we are. I don't know if Chelsea told you, but Jacques just recently went to Hanoi to visit me, and I was really happy about that. We had a really good time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's it really. I mean, I can't think of anything about me to say other than well, I work here and I have planned to go back to Canada. I'm not sure when. And I met Chelsea along the way, and we've been good friends, and I think I really enjoyed the friendship. And here we are at a podcast that we do together,
Yeah.
which is quite
Yeah.
quite random how everything works out. But
It is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have one question for you. I have so many questions for you, but let's just start with the first one. You mentioned that you were in Regina, and I was kind of wondering how would you compare that to Brisbane? Like you've been to Regina, but you live in Brisbane, so how's that like? You know.
So Brisbane in Australia is basically like the fourth biggest city in Australia, so it's quite big. So there's probably more comparison to Saskatchewan, and where Regina would be equivalent to probably some of our smaller surrounding rural townships. So around Brisbane, it would only take you about an hour to drive to a regional township, and so Regina is probably similar to us driving an hour out of like Brisbane to see a township the same size, or yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you're an engineer, so I'm just kind of wondering, like, so what kind of engineer are you? Like, do you build bridges?
No. So I'm mechanical. So mechanical do like in Australia, like a mechanical engineer does mostly air conditioning designs typically, but now because I work for the state health department, we're doing a lot of projects at the moment. So I've been with them now for 10 years. Started out, pretty much left school when I was 16, and then did a engineering course at like a college type organisation in Australia. Never went to university till much later, and then basically started out as a draftsman. Then over time, my boss felt that I was a good lot of engineering knowledge, so basically went down that path for pretty much most of my working life. And then it was only about like 15 years ago that I actually went to university, did a master's degree in building services, which covers mechanical, hydraulic, fire services and facilities management. And then pretty much that was how I got my university qualification. So I did that quite late in life. I was probably in my 40s when I did it, which is quite unusual. And now if typically that was not uncommon for my generation, but now you would have to get the same job, you'd have to have been in university and got a degree in engineering. But at the time, it was experience and knowledge was just as important as the theory.
My grandmother did her university way later on in her life. She was a nurse, and then she did university. And to her, it meant a lot because she very much kind of believed that she was kind of the academic type, and she wanted to get a degree. And when I was doing university at the University of Regina, there were a few people who were a little older who were coming in. One of my friends was a truck driver, and I talked with him a lot, and it definitely feels a little awkward because you're around people who are much younger than you, and there is a bit of pressure. And at least the people I knew, they were often doing something on the side. One person was a mother, and she just had a kid, and she was kind of going to university. And yeah, it must be a little strange going to university later on in your life.
I think you're a lot more motivated, and I think you treat it with a lot more importance. You know, I think sometimes some of the younger people doing the course I did were just interested in the social life of university and involved with other things like sports. And I found they call them mature students when you go to university, like as an adult, like as a term. And so I think you tend to sort of look at the opportunity that probably treat it with a bit more respect about what it means. But yeah, like I really enjoyed it. And when it was finished, it took me 4 years part-time. So I was doing a full-time job at the time. And then obviously the Chelsea and them were very young, you know, so they would have been sort of between the ages of 5 and 10 years old. And so you're trying to bring up a family as well as work, as well as doing the university on the side. So it was pretty difficult. I was just so focused, and I enjoyed it so much. In fact, when it finished, one of my friends was still going to university, and I kept ringing him up going, what subject are you doing now? Do you need any help with the assignment? Like, do you want me to do anything for you? I'm just doing this one on fire at the moment. And I just go, okay, just send me the assignment. I'll quickly put the skeleton together for you, and I'll send you all the study notes, you know, type of thing. So I'd set it up for you. So I'd do all the hard work to get him in a position where he could just put the assignment together himself and send it off. So I was doing that for about 6 months because I missed it so much. And once I got it out of my system, I was okay. So you get very focused and very motivated. Yeah. But I did end up doing a double masters in the end because I enjoyed the first one so much I kept going.
I know a lot of my friends. It gets a bit addictive because the university life, it's like a different world where you can just focus on yourself and self-growth, and you kind of get a little comfortable too in that world. And yeah, I felt like there was a lot of my friends who, when I was in 4th year, who were just like, well, I'm going to get my doctors, and then I'm going to become a professor. And at the time I was thinking, it's very good to stay in university, but at the same time, it can be a bit of a trap when you're a young person because you only have your youth for so long. And sometimes you just have to figure out, well, okay, it's time to like stop and figure out maybe a job in the real world. Well, not saying that professor isn't a job in the real world. My dad is a professor, but it's a bit of a risk, and I feel like sometimes you get a little too comfortable in university.
And that's right. And if you want to experience other things in life, work and travel, then, you know, sometimes the university doesn't always give the opportunity. Only thing is, I guess, when you have semester breaks, a bit like teachers at schools, you get a bit more of a break. But, I mean, it is a career path. I would think it was a very strict career path. But yeah, I think you have to really enjoy the university life and that academic faculties and being part of that structure.
Yeah.
I did think about doing a doctorate, but I changed my mind very quickly because once I got back to work and got the masters out of the way, I was just happy to not have to do that extra bit of work, get my life back, wasn't it?
I'm just thinking.
But
Oh, sorry. I was
yeah,
just
go on.
thinking how amazing that you managed to had a full-time job, had to take university classes, and also having a family on the side. I was just curious, how did you manage to balance everything out? Because like for me, I work full time, and Jacques is also
Yeah,
working full time as well. But we
yeah,
barely have time for anything else. Like we barely have the time to look at the phone and chat to one another. And I just can't
yeah.
imagine if I have a family right now. Like how would I handle all of that? So how did you do it? Um,
So I basically break my life up into 3 hour chunks,
hmm,
and so I just went, okay, I'm at work. I've got 9 hours, and just focus on work. And then if I was doing any study that night, I'd just suddenly stop at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time it was, you know, and literally just suddenly just stop what I'm doing at work, put everything aside and almost pull my notes out and go, okay, now I'm doing university, and then just start working on the university stuff and go. So I might spend 2 hours doing that, and then I'd stop, and then I go, okay, that's an hour to travel home, and and then I'd go home and go, okay, now I've got 6 hours to sleep, and then 2 lots of 3, 6 hours, then just wake up and just start the cycle again. So I pretty much did that for 4 years, and then on the weekend, I tried to just keep that for family. Sometimes if I had an assignment, I might have to spend 6 hours on one evening or night. So I might go 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I go, okay, I'm going to do 6 hours of study, finish at 9 o'clock at night, and go, okay, that's it, I'm done. Yeah, so that's how I did it.
it's amazing. Like just listening to it. You make it sound so easy. Like
You had to have a simple plan, otherwise
uh,
it gets too complicated. So
yeah.
that was the only way I could function.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how would
Just
you? Oh, sorry, Jacques. Go ahead.
just quickly, Ethan, did you start the podcast yet, or
I'm already
do we
starting.
still have to begin?
I'm already rolling, so we can record the intro later.
Oh,
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Just
We'll get to the end and go, we didn't turn it on.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, the
We,
conversation's pretty good, so might as well
yeah.
start it.
Yeah.
We've done this so many times. There are a lot of guests that come over, and sometimes we don't need to have a formal introduction and a formal intro to the podcast. Sometimes things just roll, and yeah. So we're kind of used to this.
And also, it's not necessarily for the viewers. It's just kind of to
To
keep these great moments.
yeah.
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 So now you mentioned it, I gotta go to the story of how we started this podcast. We were just bored, but then the more that we did our podcast together, we realized that we have this opportunity to look back about our lives and our greatest moments, being
Yeah.
friends with one another. And I think that's the whole point of this podcast. We don't do it for views or for fame. We just want something to look back in 10 years and see like, oh yeah, I used to be like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So again,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're here. I really appreciate it. It's like you left a mark in our lives. So that's something that I won't forget, even though it's just a short little discussion in an hour or so. So, yeah.
Well, I think, like like I'm happy that Chelsea bumped into you and met you, because obviously for her, she's keen to spend more time in Vietnam. So, like, it's great that there's an opportunity for her to keep in contact with you, and also use have you as an opportunity of someone that she can catch up with when she's there as well. So, it's like a really good thing. And travel's a fantastic exercise, and as you've experienced, going to another country like you've indicated, Canada, at the end of the day, it's a great opportunity. And then for Jacques, obviously to then experience other countries as well. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I fully agree. I strongly believe visiting other countries that don't speak your language is a great way to kind of build self-confidence. I feel like the more countries I go to, the more confident I feel.
Yeah, no, it's good. And so basically I've travelled all over the world. So apart from Canada, been to America and been to Europe. So like at the end of the day, so I've done quite a bit of travel in the time. And then like Chelsea and I are going over to Spain in February as well. So, it's going to be great there. And with Chelsea being able to speak Spanish, that's just one opportunity just to get more involved in the community. So, yeah. And then, of course, she's going to come over and to Vietnam after that. So, yeah, fantastic. Lucky for her.
Yeah, lucky for her.
Yeah, lots of places.
Yeah, lots of learning experience opportunity. Vietnam is a great place to travel, and you live just short term. I think if you meet the right person and you know the right place, and I think it's gonna give you something that you'll remember for the rest of your life. I think. I Jacques recently just traveled to Vietnam. Chelsea told me recently that she was kind of curious about your experience in Vietnam. Do you want to like give it a short rundown?
Do you know, I was kind of expecting it to be similar to China, and I guess
Really?
it was my mistake. It's kind of the same way that I expected Korea to kind of share qualities of Japan. I knew that, of course, it's a different culture and different people, but from the pictures I saw, it seemed very similar. But yeah, Vietnam's very different from China. I think whereas China is very focused on kind of progressing as fast as possible, and to do that, they're willing to kind of cut away the past. I think Vietnam is a little different, where at least in Hanoi, there's a lot of the past still there, and there's just a little bit of modernization. Very few skyscrapers, a lot of very small, kind of maybe 5 to 4 story buildings, still a lot of street food, and just one thing that I guess is a little negative is there's still a lot of gasoline. So when you're on the streets, you'd be breathing in a lot of bad fumes. And I was like, wow, at least in China, all the motorcycles are electric. So it's very nice in that regard, but then you've not got the nice street food. The buildings are all looking kind of the same. So it was a very eye-opening experience, because I was like, this is a completely different country. There's positives, there's negatives, and of course, Ethan was really good at kind of showing me around and getting me to kind of understand the Vietnamese culture.
Yeah. And so I take it that Vietnam is a very culturally orientated country, still has a lot of history that's been around for quite a few hundred years that is still embedded into the culture, notwithstanding the fact that I'm taking it that the French set up a lot of the architectural buildings originally, and so there's probably still a lot of the French architecture in the north and in the south. I'm assuming in the south more so, but it's I just think it's great that there's a lot of tourism there now, and it's really opening up the country. And most people that I know, I've got a few people at work that have just been there and have just raved on it and said everyone's got to go there. So I think as a tourist attraction for a tourist destination, I should call it, not attraction, a destination for Australian tourists, it's really going to boom there. I feel more and more people are going to definitely go.
Yeah, I totally agree about how Hanoi is. We have this very strong sense of identity, especially in the north, because the country kind of started here, so we have like thousands of years just being like we have a really good answer to the question, what does it mean to be a Vietnamese, and we very proud of it. And the more you go down south, is where I was born. Things are a little bit more Western, a little bit more new, a little more American. surprisingly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, like if you drive around Hanoi, you definitely see some of the French influence in the city. Like I was driving Jacques around in the downtown, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Jacques, look at that building. You know, it's French." You can definitely
Yeah.
see those. Um, but you could, I will say that the more that you go down south, it's a little bit more different because they had the opportunity to kind of like chose an identity for themselves, especially during the Vietnam War. Um,
Yeah.
whether that's good or bad, that's debatable, but things are a little bit different down there. I love both. I love the North, I love the South. Um, so yeah, it's quite a vastly different experience. Sadly, Jacques wasn't staying around for long to really understand the difference. But if you know Chelsea, if you're coming over for a long time, I know you will. I think this is a really good opportunity for you to actually learn how is it like in Vietnam, and you'll find better ways to appreciate it. Not just a tourist, but you know someone who really understands it very well. So I'm really excited for you, Chelsea. All the best. You need anything, you just let me know. You know, Jacques told me that I did a good job of showing him around. I disagree. We barely did anything. All we
I
did
think
was
he did well.
all we did was like finding a best croissant place for breakfast,
That's all right.
which is funny.
That's
We
Yeah.
also went to see the place where they filmed the King Kong movie,
Oh yeah,
and that was
Oh.
really nice.
that was
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
we climbed a mountain, ruined my pants, and we saw some goats, and yeah, that was very fun. So Chelsea, you're coming over. I definitely recommend that. But anyway, yeah. So getting back to what you do in Brisbane, I know that you spent some time in the military, and I was really eager to ask you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about your experience in the army and like did you have any plan of joining the army or being an engineer yourself, or you just kind of figured out when you know finish school and start working?
Yeah. So basically, when I left school, as I said, I was 16, and so I had actually planned to join the army, and they basically said I was too young at the time, so they said, you know, pretty much let's come back the next year. And in the meantime, I basically picked up a job as a engineering draftsman, and so that's pretty much how my career path went. And so I've, you know, been basically doing that for 45 years. And so probably when I was about, I think, 21-ish, might have been, I think I was 21, I ended up, we have like a regular army and a reserve army in Australia. And so I pretty much joined the reserve army and because I was in engineering, I basically went to a maintenance unit, and so pretty much did the training to work on weapons as well as vehicles as well as small equipment. Did that for 30 years. So pretty much started in 1984 and basically officially discharged in 2018 was when I did actually leave, so it's probably more than 30 years there, but I was inactive for about 5 years, for 3 years. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jack, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my father was part of the reserves, and my grandfather was a UN kind of
Peacekeeper?
worked with the UN. Yeah, peacekeeper.
Yeah.
Went to Vietnam, went to a lot of places. And one thing that both of them did a lot was traveling. I think the military allows you to kind of move around a lot and see the world.
Yeah, so with the reserves in Australia, you basically predominantly doing sort of more home training. There's a couple of big exercises that happen in Australia where some of the people in my unit went across to Hawaii, for example. So when as part of a headquarters element, so more when you train with the Americans, they tend to have the big military operations happen across the whole regions, not just really local. And so because they were operating out of America, some of our people go across to them. But ultimately, I did deploy once with the Army. I went to a country that's just north of Australia, so East Timor, which is which was occupied by the Indonesians, and then basically they pretty much requested independence under the UN, and under a UN mandate, the Australian Army sent in, probably about 10,000 troops to basically stabilise the country, so it didn't. It's like everything. Once a foreign country or force moves out of the area, it causes a bit of a vacuum. So some of the internal tensions start to blow over. So they wanted the Australian Army to go in just to stabilise the country first up. And so after about 6 months of stability, the UN took over after that. So that was back in 2000. So I was there for about 5 months.
Wow. I mean, that was when I was born, so it's been
Yeah.
some time, eh?
Yeah.
Did you have any story or unique experience involved when you were deployed or in the Army at all? I'm sure you work in there so many years. What's something that it makes you happy whenever you look back?
I think I just enjoyed the experience and the challenge. So if you talk to anyone who's been in the military, they always push you beyond what you think you can normally achieve. So it's either it could be fitness, or it could be just put you in situations where you're always challenged, and that's in peacetime or in conflicts. You'll find that if you talk to anyone who's in the military, they'll always say that they got more out of the military than whatever they sort of gave you. So I found a very positive experience.
Let's say I want to join the Australian Army. Would you say yes? Like, do you think that I should be in it? If I could, that is.
Yeah. Like any of the military, but yeah, the Army, the Navy, or the Air Force, because you'll definitely get more out of it than what you're giving to it. You'll feel at the time you always feel like they're beating the life out of you, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's experience that I'd recommend to anybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
You think you wouldn't be able to do it, but like it's part of the test.
Yeah, I
think the reserves. The reserves is a nice transition point to kind of just see, okay, well, is this the life I want to live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also too, it's an opportunity that if you already have a career, or if you want to do other interests, you're basically doing the military part time. Some people can find that living it and breathing it 24/7 can be a bit of a bit testing, and so to be able to do it part time where they can boss you around for the weekend, and then the other 5 days of the week you're your own boss type of thing. So, but when you're young, it's a good disciplinary opportunity to test yourself and see how far you can push yourself.
Yeah, and I think personally, I love those moments where you realize that there's so many things that you could achieve if you really set your mind to it, and there's an environment for it. Shaq know the story very well, but I really thought I couldn't do many things, and then somehow I just put all of that fear away, and I managed to go to Canada, and I managed to meet Jacques. So I think joining the army is one of those environment where you can really test yourself, and I pondered that a lot too. It's not like I want to join the army, but I just think the idea of joining the army can be very beneficial for you. I don't think I'm built for the army, to be honest. I look like a stick.
At the same time, even Ethan has accomplished a lot. He got kind of the upper range in his university, scholarships to pay for all of his university, and even scholarships to pay to Canada. So, of course, I think you've already accomplished quite a bit, Ethan.
That's right. I think that's right. That goes a lot towards like life's experiences, and you try to get as much out of life as you can. All those, any experience where you test yourself or push yourself beyond what you thought you could achieve is always very fulfilling.
I teach a lot of high school students, as you'd imagine, as a high school teacher, and at one point, I'm amazed with them. They're very disciplined. They're very smart. They're very capable. But I think also they're very reserved. They're scared of going outside the box and kind of testing things out. And as you'd expect with teenagers, but definitely compared to Canadian teenagers, I feel like they're a little bit more reserved. They like kind of being in the comfort of their home, either playing video games, sleeping, watching videos online. And I keep telling them that, you're very smart, you're very capable, and you've only got youth for so long. When you get older, more and more problems kind of happen. You get sick, your body doesn't work as well. So might as well make the most of your youth, right? But I don't know. I feel like kids these days, they like being safe.
But I think also too the parents can sometimes put a lot of pressure on them to perform, and we found that with the 2 exchange students we had, the parents influenced a lot about what they could and couldn't do. One of them was actually a bit of a rebel, and he caused his parents a lot of grief. But at the end of the day, and he found his freedom a bit here, and he let his hair down a bit. But the parents do, I find, push their kids really hard academically, and it's treated as a very important part of their life to compete against the other students. And so, I mean, that can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing too. So it's you never know the outcome ultimately till track when they're in control of themselves.
It's definitely a factor, but even just aspirations. Like I remember last year I didn't get to this point this year yet in what I'm teaching, but last year I said, what do you hope to do, when you get a little bit older? And a few said traveling, but most of them said, I just want money. And I said, okay, well, how are you going to get this money? Not too sure. Yeah. But I think I'm going to go to university. I think I'm going to get a job. And I think I want a job that gets me a lot of money.
Yes.
Even some said, I think my parents will help me, find something and they'll give me a lot of money. I was thinking, try and be a bit more specific with your goals. If you believe in just these general aspirations and you just believe in money all the time, you can't really do anything great because you're chasing something so vague. But we'll see. Again, they're just teenagers, and they're still kind of, they definitely don't have as much experience as us, and it's very easy to kind of complain about them. But at the same time, I do feel like they're a bit. I
think it's
scared.
You've got to try and find what your passion is, and sometimes, when you haven't worked out what you're passionate about, then ultimately at the end of the day, it makes it hard to, make a decision of where you're going to go. And it's natural to say, we're going to go to university because even in the education system in Australia, they encourage you that you should be finishing year 12. For example, in my day it was year 10. So that's the highest level of high school. and with the understanding that potentially will go to university, and other people do trades. So they've encouraged them in more recent times to say, not everyone has to go to university. You can actually do a trade, because what we found is as we lifted our education system higher and higher, some of the basic industries in Australia were actually short of employers and skills. So there's been a big push for these last 5 years in Australia for people to actually take up a trade, and so they're now encouraging it in high school to actually do what they call pre-apprenticeship schemes or other pathways that actually don't necessarily direct you to university. It directs you down a technical path. And so, whereas in my day it was only like basically 25% of people I went to school with would go to university, and probably the other 75% went down other paths through either college or a trade school to actually do their other more their technical skills, to technical trades.
I had a friend in high school. He failed all his classes. I think this was when he was in grade 11. Went off to Israel, and then came back, and then he went back to high school, finished his high school, and then went and became an apprentice electrician.
Yeah.
I remember a year later, we all gathered at his house. He had a nice house, a barbecue, a wife, and he was doing really well. And all of us, we were going to university in debt. Yeah. We were like thinking, wow, he really found the golden solution. Now, of course, he definitely put in a lot of work and all that. But at the time, you think, oh, well, university is the only path to success. But definitely he found his own path, and he was very happy doing what he was doing. Now, of course, he told us that he was planning to go back to SciAst, kind of get some qualifications and study some more. But he wasn't even a full electrician yet. He was just an apprentice, and he was doing pretty well.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's in Australia, it's actually quite a positive thing to do, is actually to leave school and pick up a trade, and maybe never go to university, or you might go to university if you, for example, wanted to take up a business yourself, so expand your electrical trade, and then maybe go to university to do a business degree just to get a better understanding of how the administrative side of the business functions. But even our technical colleges do some of those levels of management that you would use for if you're expanding a business from your trade. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. But I know myself pretty much most of my. So I did TAFE in, as I said earlier, which was getting my engineering based qualification. I pretty much every year did. They'd like you to try and do about 50 hours of extra curricular or extra education each year. So pretty much my whole working life, I was always attending seminars or trade courses all through my working life. I probably didn't stop till when I did my master's degree, which I finished in 2007, was probably the up till then. So pretty much from 1984 to 2007, I was doing like extra education all through those years just to keep my technical skill level up for my job. So there's so many things that you can just keep doing all through your life, and they don't even have to be. Some of the things that courses I was doing didn't relate to my job at all. Like one thing I got quite fascinated with, there's a lot of tunnel projects happening around Australia, and so the institute that I was a member of ran like seminars on a Tuesday night, for example, or a Wednesday night, for example, for 2 hours just talking about some of the projects happening at the time in Sydney, but also in Brisbane. And so I'd actually go to those only because it was an interest that I had, but it didn't relate to my job. I never built a tunnel in my life, but I got to understand how the tunnel's built, and then there's ventilation systems you use for them. And so even though I don't do ventilation in tunnels, the knowledge that I had about that you could use for a car park, or you could use, an entry to a car park, but it has the same theory behind it. So I found it really good.
Yeah, like a lot of things relate to each other.
Yeah.
I think that's all the time that we had for our podcast today. So I think it's a good time to wrap things up. Sean, were you gonna say something?
No, I'm just very happy with the discussion. I think we went in directions Ethan and I were talking before this, and we're like, we don't really know which direction to go in because, quite frankly, I don't know too much about you. I'm sorry. So I knew that Ethan told me that you were in the military and that you're an engineer, but that's about it. Yeah. So it was kind of like we don't know where we were going, but it went in a really good direction.
It worked out.
I think we had a great conversation.
It worked out very well, and I'm very happy. Mr. Wallen, thank you so much for your time. I would try my best to upload this within the next week. I'm not sure. I've been so busy with work. But I think Chelsea will let you know when it's online. One more time, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. Jacques, if you don't have anything else, I'll end the recording. And to the viewers that are listening to this, thank you for listening, I guess. See you next week.
Okay, enjoyed it. No,